Praise the Lord.
Yeah, I've been saying I was rich since I was broke. Yeah, it's a state of mind, you gotta know. Yeah, that it's gonna happen for sure. Had to take my time, take it slow.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Road to Freedom podcast, where we talk about everything business, mindset, life, but most importantly, freedom. Freedom of thought and freedom of pursuit, where you get to learn how to attain everything you've ever wished for, and where you also get to open your mind on a variety of topics.
Yes, sir.
My name is Austin. We're here with the Professor Brothers.
Whoa, Tyler.
It's crack-a-lackin'.
Crack-a-lackin'.
So today we have a variety of interesting topics for you guys that will, once again, open your mind.
We'll rock your socks off.
So first things first, if you guys do ever get any kind of value from the podcast, be sure to share it with somebody who you know will also gain the equivalent amount of
Benefit,
value, et cetera, et cetera. Also, too, be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Road to Freedom Podcast. That's at the Road to the number 2 Freedom Podcast. Be sure to tag us in on your story. Let us know that you're watching it. Also, I highly recommend that you watch us on YouTube for the people who aren't. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We release these episodes every single Monday, typically around 6 o'clock in Pacific Standard Time, p.m. We're getting better at a particular, posting on a particular time every single time. But nonetheless, we always come out with an episode on Monday. You already know that we have very interesting topics that are not confined by the bounds of society. So be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Once again, if you ever gain any value from the podcast, be sure to share it with somebody who will also gain the same equivalent value. With that being said, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we have a pretty interesting episode, a variety of topics for you guys today. So, I know what you were discussing earlier was imagination, right?
Right.
What were some of the things that you wanted to talk about in regards to that?
Just how imagination is, from what I've learned, imagination is basically our gateway to the infinite intelligence, or basically manifestation, essentially.
Yeah.
Or achieving things successfully. A lot of our magic as humans lies within the imagination, the power of the imagination. From what I've learned recently, I've really began to see the power of the imagination, and really it's just through reading.
Yeah.
And applying a little bit so far that I've applied. You know what I mean? So
when you say magic, what do you mean?
Like there's just a power that we can create through imagination. Basically, the basis of creation is through imagination, from what I've learned,
Yeah.
And that's why where it comes, what we think about, you can bring about, because whatever you imagine in your head is really what manifests itself in reality, in the physical plane. You know? So that's why I say the power of the imagination. Yeah. The magic.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of the stuff that we've mentioned before on some of the prior episodes, but imagination is definitely key. It's like your tool to God, or it's like the most God-given tool that you can have. And that's what we discussed. I think it was on episode number 4. Yeah, number 4, that imagination is essentially God at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's important that the important thing to remember and to understand is that the imagination is always being used, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. So I remember too, I've learned this from Tony Robbins as well, but what's going on back there? The imagination doesn't know the difference between reality and you imagining something.
Right.
So it's important that you're always consciously aware of what you're imagining, because that's what you're bringing into light.
Right.
Now, I think what happens too is that a lot of people don't think this is true. Literally, they realize that they're bringing into reality, into life, the things that they are unconsciously thinking about. Typically, their default is their subconscious beliefs, whatever the case may be. But with me personally, when I began to bring more awareness to my thoughts and to the things that I was imagining, in quotes, is when I began to take more control of my life. Because what happens is that we're typically driven by fear, right? And we're typically driven by things that unfaithful thoughts. And when you let those thoughts go rampant and you believe them to be true, because that's almost our default as human beings, that's when those things come into reality. But what I've learned is so far on my progress in becoming successful is that you have to take control of those thoughts, and you can't let those thoughts run rampant, and that those thoughts will always be there. And what you realize too is that if you study other people, you see that they all have the same thoughts. It doesn't matter who you're studying, that same person has thoughts that you are struggling with as well. They just have a certain way of handling those thoughts. And that's with me. I mean, when difficulties come up, I definitely have certain thoughts of like whether it's am I doing the right thing, considering quitting, am I in the right avenue? Is this the right thing for me? Maybe there's another way I can go about doing this. Maybe there's another way that I can figure out a way to make money. Is this really the right way? Am I doing the right thing? And these questions will get at you if you don't have the right mindset. And I think it's even important too to bring back up like the people who you bring around you, because there's people who can add to the negativity in your life.
Of course.
You know?
Most definitely.
And they like feed on the negative thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's like makes it even worse to where it's like a crab in the bucket analogy, you know? So I think it's important too, like even with me, I mean, I tend to like, with me, I'm very like isolated a lot.
Right.
You already know how I am.
Yeah.
Like I'm typically like, I wouldn't consider myself introverted, but I would say that I'm a mixture.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't label myself either or. I can definitely get down and socialize and network the right way, but a lot of the times, I think what re-energizes me most of the time, 80, 90% of the time, is when I'm by myself. Like, I can just be in my room thinking about life is when I get recharged. There's times where, like, when I was out in Knoxville, I was fucking isolated for, like, months on end.
Right.
Like, that's what I used to say. I was like a man in the cabin in the middle of the woods is what it felt like living in Tennessee, Knoxville. So when I would go out and I would actually socialize with people, I actually got recharged then, which was one of the first experiences I had of that, really. Kind of.
I think it just comes down to the basis of balance. That's why.
Yeah,
you
for
were
sure.
unbalanced, and that just kind of gave you balance. But typically, how you normally find your balance is being alone.
Yeah.
But obviously, too much of being alone in excess isn't good either, you know?
Yeah.
So that's probably why it actually the roles reversed in that instance, what it typically is, because you actually had no social interaction. Because I didn't know you were going through this, but after we started really talking and connecting again, I really realized, like, damn.
Yeah, I was going through it over there.
You were in the hole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for months on. I lived there for a year, so I would say a big portion of that I was like by myself in the house, which is fine. I actually enjoyed a lot of it. I think what it was too was the situation I was in that house. Like, it wasn't the best house. It was in the fucking ghetto, hella ghetto. We're talking about like sketchy shit.
Yeah.
Remember that one time we were on the walk and that guy walked up to it? He pulled up
course.
in his fucking SUV. Guy, this probably doesn't even live there.
Wait, tell them the context of why we were walking.
We were walking on 75 hard. We're on workout number 2 in the ghetto.
Was that after we went to the real estate meetup?
Maybe.
Is that why?
Oh, I think so. Maybe, yeah.
And then we went to the gym. Did we go to the gym? No, we didn't.
No, because that was our second workout.
Right, and that was our second workout. That's why we didn't go to the gym.
Yeah. So we were walking. We were doing a 45-minute outside walk, and then we're almost done. And at the time,
what time is it? So basically, it
was like late.
We're
10
really
o'clock.
preoccupied through the day with doing certain things. So
Yeah.
when we got home and got some free time, it was like 12 o'clock in the morning.
Was it that late?
Yeah.
It was like 10 to 12.
It was like 12:30 when that guy pulled up on us.
Was it really?
Well, think about it. If we left at like 11:45, it's the end of our workout because we were pulling up on the street.
We did leave really late. I mean, I personally would say 10:30 to.
No, Austin. I'm telling you, I could be wrong.
It was late.
I could be wrong, but
It was late.
my memory is like it was like we shouldn't be even out at that.
Yeah,
late, you know. Whereas
especially
10,
in the ghetto.
10 is a little more acceptable.
Yeah.
12 is like, and I felt like we were really like
We're risking it
pushing the limit
for that outside workout. Yeah. And that time too was the only time I wasn't carrying.
Yeah.
That's the only time I wasn't carrying, of course. And what ended up happening was that I think we were towards the end of our walk.
We were really close to the end of our walk.
Yeah, like
So
we're walking down
40,
the street.
43 minutes into the workout, and we're literally came back to the street that Austin lives on, and we're walking down the street, probably 4 houses away from your house.
Yeah, 45. So for a 45-minute walk, we're 43 minutes into it, almost done. We're walking on my street where the house is like literally like fucking 30 seconds walk away. And then as we're walking, this fucking guy pulls up next to us in the SUV. And what does he say to us? He's like, you know what block you're on?
No, he said,
shit.
you know where you're at.
Yeah, you know where you're at?
Like, yeah, Lonsdale?
Yeah.
Right?
And then I didn't say shit.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I was the main one talking to him.
Yeah, you had said something like,
I just played it casual.
Yeah, you were just trying to
because I already knew his goal was to provoke me and to provoke us.
Yeah.
So if I played dumb and just acted like this guy was at Johnson, the neighbor, pulling up on me, that this guy I wouldn't give him nothing to stand on, to make an issue about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I definitely had some I was feeling like it's possible this guy could pull out a pistol.
Put it this way: if we pulled out a pistol or something, or if we did anything sketchy, this guy looked like he didn't have nothing.
Yeah, nothing to lose. Yeah.
He basically said, you know where you're at. We said Lonsdale.
I mean, who would have known though? I definitely got the vibe that even if we didn't do shit, that he could have fucking pulled out something.
Oh no,
us.
most definitely.
Like, nonetheless, you know. I mean, yes, I carry, but at the same time though, I'm not trained in carrying, so it's like, how accurate can I be in the heat of the moment?
And this dude probably has his pistol on his lap. You know what I'm saying?
Type shit, yeah. Well, that's why I'd have to get like practice the draw.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That way I can like know for a fact that if I gotta pull it out, I can be accurate. You know?
In that situation, we did the best thing, which was just de-escalate the situation. You know.
I mean, honestly, well, maybe it was a good thing that time that I didn't have anything on me. Maybe I would have acted different. I wouldn't say so, because typically I'm pretty emotionally strong. But nonetheless, though, I definitely regretted not carrying that day, because I was like, dude, what if something happened, you know? And the only time that I didn't carry, fucking some shit could have broke out, or I could have lost my life, or it's somebody else, your life, for not fucking being responsible and carrying.
For
you know?
75 hard.
Yeah.
Whatever
it takes.
For
any means necessary.
But you guys want to know what happened? You have to tune into the next episode, because we're not going to tell you.
What do you mean?
Cliffhanger.
Didn't we already explain what happened?
Fuck. Just kidding.
Nothing really transpired.
Yeah, nothing really happened. Just basically, the guy came up to us, said that, just to let you know, I run this place. Apparently, he's the mayor of Lonsdale.
They fucking ghetto. We're talking about some ghetto, really ghetto area.
Put it this way, too.
Knoxville.
Not only is it the ghetto, not only is it like the raunchy country ghetto, but Austin and I, like the way we look Mexican, like, we stand out.
Rare.
It's literally only black people and white people there.
Yeah.
And some Hispanics, but the Hispanics
like Puerto Rican or
don't even look Mexican. They look like Honduras, like South American, you know? Yeah, Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Like just different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
not San Diego Mexican.
Not San Diego Mexican. Not Tijuana Mexican.
No.
You know? And not only that too, but we're out in the middle of the night, literally 12:30. Nobody's out. And over there in Knoxville, there's like no cops around.
No, yeah, it's like
you are your own cop.
Every man for himself vibe.
Every man for himself, which I'm not complaining about. I like.
Yeah, me too.
But it's just adding to the point that we were out at 12:30 at night. It's not like here. It's a lot more prominent of a thing, you know.
Yeah, like if you get laid out, you're laid out.
But it just goes to show though how dedicated we were to 75 hard.
Yeah, and getting shit done.
We don't care. We're gonna go out in the ghetto.
Yeah.
Face the possible pistol pulling and pistol whipping to get the job done.
I've done that too, like in the over there. I've done that like 11:30 at night, multiple times. I never had any issues before, so that's why that one night when that fucking random ass guy pulled up on us, I was like, the fuck, what are the odds that happens? You know, because typically it doesn't, even though it's in the ghetto. I've had one time this like crackhead lady was like, I was running late at night, maybe 10:30, 9:30, 11:30, around that time. And doing my typical route in the ghetto and around the block, and this crackhead lady starts like saying something to me like, "Can I blah blah blah?" And I was like, I'm running. And I just kept running past.
I'm running.
Yeah, typically that's how. When I would ignore bullshit, it just doesn't affiliate with myself, you know.
Yeah.
But do you remember that?
I'm running.
I had headphones on too. I was like, I'm running or something like that. Typically though,
in case you don't notice,
I would stop and say some shit, but I was like.
What do you mean though? Say some shit.
I would say like help out.
Oh, I see.
But I'm like in the ghetto across the country by myself. I mean, I'm probably not. I don't know. It's just not worth the risk. You know. But do you remember that one time too I told you about that story with that one guy?
No.
That dude was like.
Oh yeah, of course.
Who came onto my property?
In the back alley.
No, that's another story.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean this is. I've told you about that.
The guy who walked through your yard.
On the ring camera.
Oh yeah.
You remember that?
Is that
one?
what you're talking about right now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, this is just to give you guys like this guy was peeking in the house and stuff. So, I mean, one time what ended up happening, and I'll give you a quick brief story to give you an overall picture of how this area that I used to live in was in Knoxville. But one time I was out at a coffee shop, and I had gotten a Ring camera for a gift from my dad. I think it was for Christmas or my birthday. And I had put it out on my front my property right next to the door, like a regular doorbell.
You've seen that on the Ring cameras, right next to the door on the base of the frame.
And you can connect the Ring to your app, so you can actually see what's going on live on your app in front of your house or wherever your Ring camera's at. So I was out at a coffee shop, and I get a random notification that says, chilling, working. I get a random notification that says that somebody's at your front door, and I'm like, what the? So I slide it open, I look, and then I see some guy going like this.
No mames.
inside my house, and I fucking put the mic on. And I say, "Can I help you?" And the guy looks around like, "What's going on? Who's saying that shit?" And I said, he said something like, "Somebody live here?" No. And I was like, I said something like, "Yeah." I said, "What can I help you with?" or something like that. And then he like kind of just didn't really say anything and walked away, and then like opened the front gate and left it open.
Didn't he say, "Is Johnson here?" or something?
No, he didn't. Oh. No, and then what I seen too was that the neighbor was like walking by, my next door neighbor at the time. So I was like, "Come on, man, you can't." Obviously, this guy has no affiliation with me. He's out here peeping around, but the neighbor didn't say anything. So I was like, "Well, at least now I know."
Reliable.
Yeah, the truth behind that. But I mean, that's just an idea. One time too, I was pulling back into my house in the alleyway behind my house. And there was some kid, he was probably 18. He ended up pulling out a pistol.
The alleyway connects to the backyard. So if you want to, you can literally park in the backyard, and you have to go through this like little baby alleyway. It's tiny. And then you go, so you, like you were saying, you're coming home, pulling through the back alley to go into your backyard.
Yeah, I was coming home from Walmart. I bought groceries. And what ended up happening was that as I turned into the alleyway, so keep in mind, my alleyway too, my house is the only house that's connected to the alleyway in the backyard. So there's no really reason why people should be walking back there. Right. But there was there was a liquor store down the street, so people would use the alleyway to get to the liquor store. But my car was the only car that would really be in the back. Has like a natural reason to go down there. Yeah, I mean, people would still go drive by in the alleyway, but it was always sketchy. But nonetheless, as I pull into the alleyway, I look, and this kid looks back at me. He looks like he's maybe 18.
Was he going in your backyard?
No, he wasn't. He was just walking in the alleyway. And as I turn the corner on my truck going down the alleyway, he looks back at me, and then I see him go into his waistband, and he pulls out a pistol and puts it by his waist. And he's like looking back at me, and as I'm driving, I make a right turn right into my backyard, right where he was at. Like, so he had just passed my backyard, so I made a right where he was at, and he just kept walking. And that was when I was unarmed. I didn't know anybody there besides my homie. You already know, and that was it. Nate, shout out to the homie.
Shout out to Nate. I just wanted to.
But that's just an example of how Knoxville was, and nonetheless, I mean, also too, to a caveat that can tie into this as well is about the risks, being willing to take risks for the benefit, because kind of like we discussed too in a prior episode about how that house ended up giving me massive leverage now to where I'm able to invest into RTF, the America First, and have some savings too to keep things afloat, you know. But if I never even bought the property to begin with, or took the risk, or moved out there for that year, or was able to deal with all of that, you know, for that time being, then I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in today. Right. You know, or learned a lot of lessons there as well. So I knew that all that shit was going down, and honestly, it was adventurous to me. I was like, this shit's pretty tight, you know? And to me, I'm about, like, if you were to see, like, the flags that I fly, you know, it's always about, like, individual freedoms. So, I mean, I actually enjoyed it. You know, I wish I was armed more. I wish I had more things to carry and more things to keep in the house. But, you know, I actually enjoyed the idea of being, like, by myself, you know, and having kind of it being every man for himself. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, I took a risk. You know, lived in the fucking ghetto. Definitely the vibes in the ghetto are, like, down for sure. Yeah. Like, I was the only one ever working out. Like, I think one time out of the entire year, I seen one white guy running. And I was like, hey, let's go, bro. Somebody else out here fucking working out other than me, you know, but everybody else is like, it just seems like everybody else is like hanging out on like doing hood rat shit. Of course. You know? Typical shit. And I realized that like definitely where you live at will have a big impact on your vibe.
Well, I think too, it's where you live at, and like, and it just coincides with what you said earlier about who you're around. Yeah. And I'm sure people that are watching that are familiar with the ghetto or the ghetto culture, because I'm somewhat familiar with it, pretty familiar with it myself. A lot of it too is like, no mames, you're gonna be what? Yeah. You're gonna be a fucking successful.
Okay, pinche. No, yeah, it's the crab in the bucket. I'm gonna be
no mames. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, just highlighting how important it is who you're around, you know, and using that one of those examples of that type of culture to be around, you know, and that type of culture, it's almost cool to put people down, you know, and then highlighting it in the bigger picture, just like the area that you live. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not only really the people that you're around too, it's the people you're around that you're not even affiliated with, you know, that can affect you, like living in the ghetto.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea too is that, like, I always appreciate the house for what it was. I mean, for it being fucking cockroach infested and fucking halfway leaning in the back, you know, and all that shit. I still really appreciate it for what it was. And I think it's important too that wherever position that you're at, like, for example, where we live at now, like, we talk about this all the time, but I don't fuck with it a lot. But at the same time, I'm really thankful for it because I come from a point where I had nowhere to live, sleeping on a fucking couch. So it's like, bruh, I for a long time, I think until after I was 16 until 21 or 22, I don't have a room ever. So when I finally was able to get a room at the place we live at now, it was like fucking huge switch up, like because I had no privacy before for a really long time, like 5 years. So I'm still really appreciative for what it is, and I see it as a stepping stone that it is. And at the end of the day, I know that we're not going to live there forever, and it's just something that's going to give us more leverage to move on to the next thing versus like imagine living in a fucking van or like living on a futon or something like that. At least we have somewhere good to live, you know, lay our head down. Yeah. And I think too is that I think that if you point out negative things about your current situation, it's good, yes, because you're obviously looking to move on to the next thing. But if you don't have gratitude for where you come from and the things that you're experiencing, then you're never gonna have gratitude towards the next thing. Yeah. And if we had to think about it as well, is that what we think about, we attract. So if you're like if you're pointing out all the negative things in your life consistently, and that's what you harp on, then why do you think that you're gonna be able to get the things you want out of life? Right. You know, I think it's important to be able to have gratitude towards the small things. And like, even though the place that we live at now isn't the best, I'm still grateful for what it is. You know, because we definitely are working our way up the ladder. And I think it's just going to make it even better when we live in the penthouse, when we fucking have the house in Malibu, when we have the house in Florida, when we have these variety of different dope-ass properties that we're going to remember times like this where we didn't have the fucking best shit, you know, the times living on a couch or living in the fucking shack or whatever the fuck it may be. You know, I think it's important to have that gratitude because I don't remember where I read this at. It was that book, Transurfing Reality, that he was saying that if you don't have gratitude for what you have right now, then when you go towards the next thing, you're going to look at for all the imperfections. So an example is that if you don't have gratitude for the little things that you have where you're living at, when you finally move into that new place that you've been looking for, you're not going to feel grateful. You're going to feel the exact same thing because you're going to be looking for the bullshit that's going on with the new place.
You already have that filter. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it is important to continuously have gratitude, but there's a difference between not hyper focusing on your negative shit, but there's also another thing where you don't fucking pay attention to your negative shit. Like, you need to handle your negative shit. Right. Like, if you don't like where you're at, like where we're at right now, I'm fucking doing everything I can to change that shit, and I'm not gonna stop until it's changed, you know? So it's important to also point out your negative shit, be real with the shit that you gotta fucking solve, you know? Because even in that book, it's a little confusing, a tiny bit. Not really, because I understand, but I could see for like a typical average reader who maybe isn't like super familiar with this topic. But it kind of talks, like, for example, one thing it talks about is like pendulums. And essentially a pendulum, it's kind of difficult for me to explain what a pendulum is. He explains in the book, but a pendulum is kind of like, let me give you an example of what pendulums are, and maybe we can try to figure out how to explain it. But a pendulum would be like a government. A pendulum would be like a school. A pendulum would be like a business. It's like a pendulum is almost like a thing of influence. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. And people give their energies to these pendulums. So a pendulum would be a sports team. A pendulum would be America First. A pendulum would be a Gucci. You get what I'm saying? Right. So there's these things that have influence over them. And what happens is that there's these negative pendulums. These things that aren't good for you. One of them can be the government. You know, bullshit that's going on in the government. And it doesn't matter whether you give negative or positive attention towards that pendulum. The thing is that it feeds off of energy overall. It's not biased. It doesn't care if you're giving it negative energy or if you're giving it positive energy. So if you want to refrain from that pendulum having influence over you, maybe an abusive person in your life, then you don't give it energy. You don't give it thought. You don't give it positive thought. You don't give it negative thought. And that's how you prevent the pendulum from continuing to sway. And therefore, once it stops swaying, then it no longer has influence on you anymore. And the thing that he discusses there is that you have to ignore the pendulum. So I'm thinking like, okay, you have issues in your life, right? So do you just ignore your issues? You know, I have a customer I don't want to deal with. Let me just fucking ignore him, you know, and it'll go away. It's a pendulum I don't want to deal with. No, but what he specifies in the book, though, later is that he says that there's a difference between ignoring a pendulum and there's a difference between allowing something to come into your life and then trying to ignore it. So there's a difference between not acknowledging and ignoring. That it's your job to not acknowledge these negative things before you let it into your life at all. But once it's into your life, Now you got to solve that issue.
Right.
So this transpires into the same thing about like where we live at or whatever the case may be. Maybe where the company isn't where we would like to. Now it's our response. We're not going to just ignore that. Oh, I'm going to turn a blind eye. No, we got to face and figure out why it's not the way that we fucking want it, so we can point it in the direction where we take the right actions to do that, you know? So I think there is a difference, and I think that's like the interesting part about reading a bunch of different books, and learning from a bunch of different people is that you hear like a variety of information, you know, and it's kind of your job to go in and decipher it the right way, you know. But that book so far is really good. I really enjoy. I'm reading that book, Transurfing Reality. I'm reading Patrick Bet-David's book, your Next 5 Business Moves, and then I just picked up Manny's book, The Contrarian Investor, which is about investing into real estate. At that time, he wrote it in 2010, 2011, and he had $100 million portfolio, real estate portfolio. But now he has, I seen something where he said he has $1 billion portfolio, and he actually talks about in the book in 2011, 2010 about his next goal is at 1 billion. I'm sure he has that. He has that now in 2022.
Bagged up.
So it's tight. Yeah, because that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so it makes sense. Of course, he's at 1 billion now. But I was thinking about that too in regards to like, because here's another thing. I see like these other millionaires, right? And I'm like, dude, how the fuck did this guy become a millionaire, you know? And he's this guy, for example, I know some guy who's 22 and he's a millionaire. He talks about how he makes like 5 to 10 million liquid every year. And I'm like, okay, what can I do to get to that point? Because I know I'm better. I know I'm fucking better. But I realize that what I'm doing now is actually the better way. Because here's why. Is because the way that I'm developing wealth is through real estate. So I know that this is going to be something where I can build a $100 million portfolio, a $150 million portfolio, $1 billion portfolio. And the thing is this too is that it's not liquid cash. It's net worth, meaning that like, I buy the property, and now that since the property I buy is worth 50 million, my net worth is now worth 50 million. Then on top of that, when you buy these properties, these commercial buildings, not houses, buildings, they make income. So he even talks about it too. Like you can buy a property, and then you can have the lease just pay you out. Like let's just say for example, we were to buy a property today, and obviously we're in we're starting to go towards a down market, right? We buy way too high, but the good thing is that as long as we're cash flowing, we can hold on to the property, make profit in the meantime, like monthly cash flow. And then once the market comes back up, we can sell it. Because overall, the real estate will always catch back up. You want to do your fucking best not to buy at the top. And this is another thing that just came into my mind right now, but I think it's quite interesting about how it seems as though in the media, the time that they tell you to buy is the time that they want you to fucking pump up something. Yeah. And then when they tell you to start selling is when they want that shit to drop so they can go in and buy in, you know? So I find that quite interesting. Like you'll see like on the big media platforms about, no, right now is not the time to invest. And then once all the guys sell at the top, you know, the guys who own the media, these media companies, then they tell everybody to start fucking selling so that they can buy the dip. They buy the dip and then run that back up. It's like a cycle, you know? But anyways, yeah, that's the Contrarian so far. Maybe about, I don't know, I just started reading it today and yesterday, so about 20 pages into it. But yeah, Manny comes from like nothing. Like he came from like, do you know about his story?
The one with the portfolio or
No, Transurfing is another guy.
Oh.
The Manny with the portfolio.
Yeah, the
Manny Khoshbin or something like that.
No, number one, I don't know if I've ever heard of him. Maybe I've seen him.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a face.
Iranian guy.
No.
So he has a super interesting story. So he actually came from Iran when he was about to turn 14, and over there when you turn 14 you have to get automatically put into the military. So he ended up his dad. So he was saying that he's like his dad's favorite, and that all his family members, his brothers, he was saying that were either crippled or dead from the military. So his dad didn't want that for him. So what ended up happening was that his dad ended up moving before he turned 14. They ended up migrating to America, because they wanted to go 2 weeks before he turned 14, so he didn't get drafted into the military.
Makes sense.
So his dad took up everything. I guess he had a store over there. They were doing like kind of good. I think he had a paid-off house and stuff like that. And they took everything up, packed up, and moved to America. And that the dad had a friend in America who was supposed to house him and give him a job. But when he got there, I guess that the girlfriend or the wife or something of that guy didn't want them there, the family. So he kicked him out. He said, "You can't stay here anymore." So he had nowhere to go. So he ended up staying in a motel. The motel was chewing money out of his pocket. He was running out of money. So they bought a car. and then him and his family lived in the car. So 6 of them total, all live in the car.
Was it at least a van?
I think it was like a station wagon.
Oh, okay.
For a few months.
Point being, though, that's horrible.
Yeah, dude. And I mean, where he's at now, $1 billion portfolio from living in a car with his family. Yeah. And he actually had a job at Kmart for a little bit. He used to mop the floors, clean the toilets. And then he like worked his way up a little bit in Kmart. And then he started transitioning a bunch of different avenues, different jobs. And then he got into real estate. And then he started building up his portfolio. So to the point where 2011, 2010, he had a $100 million portfolio. Now he has a $1 billion portfolio.
What's his name?
Manny Khoshbin. Or Manny Khoshbin. You'll see too, if you look him up on YouTube, he has a bunch of like Bugattis, like multiple Bugattis, a bunch of nice fucking cars, big ass house. He talks about too, he was on the Ed My Lit podcast, and he talks about how 2 things. He would journal, and he talks about manifesting too. And he what happened was that when he was broke, he went into his journal and wrote out like a vision of his house, like palm trees and how he wanted to look like, the stairs and everything. And then they showed a picture of how his house looks now. It looks almost identical to that picture.
So he used his imagination?
He used his imagination back when he was broke to where he's at now, very wealthy. And he bought that house that he envisioned back when he was broke. And then he also drew a picture of his wife when he didn't have a wife, when he didn't have a girlfriend, how he wanted her to look.
Right.
Essentially designed her on paper, we can call it. And his fucking wife looks like the picture that he drew.
Not surprised.
So it just goes to show once again about the reality of how powerful your imagination is.
Badass.
And what if, hypothetically, there's been things in place for you not to understand or realize the power of your imagination? Then what do we say to that? And
put it this way, we can at least agree that imagination isn't a common topic.
Yeah.
We think of an imagination as it's Rugrats or as a child.
Yeah.
Which is the most time that we utilize our power as a child.
Yeah.
But once we become an adult, our use of the imagination goes down the toilet typically.
Yeah. It makes sense because there's a lot of people who do like the societal norms. That's why Kanye West talks about like you're standing up on a table and people tell you don't stand on the table, and it's like why can't I fucking stand on the table? I want to stand on the table. But these people who their dreams have been repressed tell you to repress your dreams. And that's why I really like Kanye West, because Kanye West is a huge visionary. And he's like, dude, he's like literally like, I mean, for a lack of better expression or terms, is that he's literally like a black sheep that has a lot of money and is out in the limelight, in the public, and just doesn't give a fuck and stays true to himself and his truth.
Right.
Which he's like Christian. He's like, you can tell he definitely
I
has a good
wonder
heart.
if that's why like maybe this is just this kind of far out, which I understand, but I wonder if that's why somebody had some type of influence on him to want to date Kim Kardashian, to basically maybe potentially kill that like.
Do you think so? What's the story behind that?
I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I just know that they got together.
Yeah, you would think that
because somebody who's like.
Yeah, I get you.
Deep.
Yeah.
And like.
Wouldn't want that like that popular.
Sure, this guy's like Martin Luther King spirit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like Martin Luther King dating Kim Kardashian BBL. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, she's like part of the Matrix, we can call it.
Hella part. She's like number
celebrity,
one. Yeah.
Influence on the agenda, whatever the case may be.
Distractor.
She too.
Above.
There was a recent post that came out with her and Hillary.
That's
like recent, like Hillary running for campaign or whatever the fuck, possibly, but some say that was a political movement on Hillary's side.
Not surprised.
But they got
See,
fucking.
guys, you like Kim?
Exactly.
You can like me.
Yeah, and it's crazy how people will follow. Like I understand somebody
admiring somebody.
I understand that somebody who actually has like something to admire of, like something that you like about business. Or let's just say in Kim Kardashian's way, fashion, right? I don't know what the fuck she's about. Right. Let's just say that's the case. Yeah. I don't know shit about her, but let's just say that's the case. When she gives her opinion on fashion, okay, I could understand, she has some authority there. But when she starts giving her opinion on fucking politics, it's like, bro, why the fuck would you even ever listen to her?
Yeah, Cardi B.
Yeah, exactly. Cardi B, WAP. Is she the WAPper?
Yeah, I don't know, but
or is there
if she's not, she is. If she didn't make that song, she definitely fits into that shit.
Like that Nicki Minaj. I mean, to keep it real, Nicki Minaj, I think Cardi B did too, actually. But when it came down to the jab, I know. Oh no, I think it was Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj spoke out against it.
Nicki Minaj kind of has a little bit of like, I feel like from my own seeing, she kind of has like where she has the ability sometimes to not to be so matrixy and agenda-ish. You know, she
more
can,
like self-thinking
a little bit. You know what I mean? I've seen her do that a couple times. But as the girl rappers started advancing, because she was kind of like the first stage after Lil Kim. And Lil Kim's kind of like the queen of girl rap.
Like that 50 Cent era, right?
Yeah. Like even maybe a little bit before 50, you know? But Nicki came right after that, you know? And then after her, I feel like that shit just went down the drain.
Yeah.
You know, got watered down, you know?
Well, did you know, too, Cardi B, like, one time that her song was playing, and she, like, freaked out and shut that shit off because her kid was there. So it's like, why wouldn't she want her own kids to listen to her music, but yet she blasts it out for the public, you know? I mean, are you going to tell me that I feel as though that there's definitely some kind of narrative behind that, too.
Yeah, you already know if you ask me.
Yeah,
what I'm
we
gonna say.
already know the facts. They use the music industry to desensitize people to certain topics, and one of them I believe is women. What do purity? We can call it. What's the proper way of saying that?
Impurity?
No, like women purity. But what does it mean? What is the word when they're like going out and being hoes?
Oh,
yeah, you know what I'm saying though.
Promiscuous.
Yeah. Like promoting being promiscuous.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
essentially.
Yeah. And they do that to the music industry.
Yeah.
So they throw up Cardi B up there and start talking about WAP.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Wet ass pussy.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. Even me saying that, I don't even want to say that on the fucking podcast.
I don't cook. I don't clean.
Oh hell no. Oh fuck.
Swallow me, gobble me. I don't know what the fuck is she.
Oh, that's Cupcake, isn't it?
I don't know if she makes that song, but point being is that it's all the same shit.
It's just ridiculous.
You know what I mean?
I don't see how she can. How would women see her as an idol? How would women see her as a strong woman? Because she's up on stage talking about fucking scandalous shit.
She's free.
Yeah, fuck
That's
that.
what they think.
Yeah, that's fucking stupid as fuck. I mean, I think people. What
type of lifestyle do you think? I'll ask any female. What type of lifestyle do you think that's going to lead you to have?
Exactly.
What degree of quality are you going to get from that?
Well,
you know?
and the thing too to remember, like this is what I was thinking about today, is that women are born with their value. That's fucking truth, facts. Now, what their job is to sustain their value, and the way they do that is by having a low body count, taking care of themselves, eating right, doing the right things, exercising. They're already intrinsically born with their value. Men, we're not born with shit.
We have to fight for it.
We have to actually develop ourselves into the man who gets the resources, who develops his quality of life, whatever the case may be. But that's why a woman can just go. That's what they say to you. You've heard them say, like she can just go on a yacht. But it took the man 15 years to buy the yacht.
Right. If they have beauty, you know.
If they have beauty, so the woman is born with her value, and I think a lot of these songs, Cardi B, fucking Nicki Minaj too, and these like degenerate fucking platforms, especially the music industry, we can call it Kim Kardashian too, but are like training women to be promiscuous, which takes away from their value. Which, when that happens, is that they become less valuable. We can call it in the dating marketplace, the sexual marketplace, and that leads to them being unhappy because they're not able to get the result they want. Because we can call it high value man, or a man who's on their shit, right? A man who is successful. Do you think they're gonna want to go after some WAP ass bitch?
I'm gonna tell you no.
Fuck no. You know, I'm looking for a girl who's like pure.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a girl who has good morals. I'm looking for a girl who has an actual wanting out of life, not just fucking going to the club and turning up and fucking shaking that WAP. You know, fuck all that. But yet these women are trained that that's admirable, and that if men don't accept that there's something fucking intrinsically wrong with the man.
They're trying to suppress me.
Let me I can hook up with whoever you want, girl. Hook up with whoever you want.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, the fuck, dude. Fuck all that.
Some bullshit.
Well, and it's like,
let me ask you this too. Let's say that is the case. Girl, get with 20 dudes. You know? Okay. What type of? I mean, are they gonna be 50, 60 doing this shit?
Yeah.
With a quality life?
No, they wouldn't. Not at all. And we can even say the same thing too about them just directly picking their career, because I think, to me, there's like a mixture I have in my mind, is that, like, I think it's cool for a girl to be entrepreneurial and for her to have a drive.
Right.
But even her like having a drive is masculine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I think as though that it's okay for her to have a drive as long as she knows how to be feminine too.
Yeah.
Like she can kind of like.
I think it's the way they go about their drive. In
Yeah, hella masculine.
Essence,
like they embrace that shit. Like
Yeah.
they start to grow some hair on their chest.
Well, they look at the drive like a man, like
Yeah.
get down and dirty, by any means possible. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Which is not typically the way a woman thinks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
Unless they're in a survival situation and they're forced to.
yeah,
you
I
know?
could understand that too. I mean, that's why, like, for me, me personally, is that I have like a mixture. I think it's okay for a girl to have a drive and for her to go after what she wants, but I think it's also another thing when she's convinced that that's the best way for her life to live, and really it's not what she wants.
It's the masculine essence thing again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Which is like feminism of today, and really, what purposes does feminism serve at this point in America? I can't think of one thing.
No,
women can vote, and they've debunked that fucking the women gets paid less. It's because I don't remember, I can't recite the exact statistics. However, there are 1,000% are statistics on this that men work more dangerous jobs, men work more hours, so therefore their pay is going to be different because they're willing to do different jobs.
Right.
So therefore the women are willing to do different jobs. So on average they get paid less because they're doing jobs that pay less.
Right.
Not because they're prevented from.
Yeah, that's like me bitching that I'm not getting paid as much as a doctor yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't do the job of a doctor.
I need the equal pay. It's like, bro, have you gone to the 8-year school program to become
You're
a
a paper
doctor?
pusher, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's called entitlement.
Yeah, exactly. Literally.
Yeah.
And two, with in regards to that with women as well, is that they're entitled. They feel, and that's the part that's the brainwashing part behind it, because they convince these people that's okay.
Right.
You know, and they go along with that. Oh yeah, girl.
Get it, girl.
Men get paid more.
Work.
And this is what I was gonna say, was that if that was the case, if men were paid more than women, why wouldn't companies just hire women 100%? Because they get paid less, don't they? So as a man who owns a company, wouldn't it make sense to, hey, we gotta reduce our expenses, bro. We're gonna go out of business. We gotta start hiring the right employees. Well, women, we can pay women less, so let's just hire a bunch of fucking women.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Why wouldn't that be the case? It's because it's a bunch of fucking bullshit.
Yeah, let's maximize our profit margins.
You get paid off of your skill set. You get paid off of what you provide for the company, not based off your fucking gender, not based off the genitalia between your fucking legs.
Nope.
You get paid off of the skills and assets you bring to a fucking company. If that was the case, then no company would hire men. All the companies would hire women, and women only, because they get paid less. But this is such a simple fact to understand, yet it seems as though women of today, well, some of them, and men too, go along with this bullshit. They somehow can't conceptualize these basic facts, you know? So I think as though at this point, and I feel like it's always been this way, but really at this point, pushing this feminist bullshit, really at the end of the day, is to provide an agenda to split the sexes, you know, the male and female dynamics, you know? And
the synergy of the two.
The synergy of the two. I forget what episode we kind of mentioned this a little bit as well, but exactly. Destroying the synergy between the man and the woman, you know? And I don't see any common place for anything with feminism.
Why don't you ever see women doing construction jobs typically?
They don't, well, number one, I would argue they're not built for that shit. We could say that, like, some of them do it, but that's the exception to the rule.
Right.
You know?
I've never seen it. Now I know it's there.
Yeah.
But the point being is that I've never even seen it myself, so it just speaks on the rareness of that particular circumstance, that a woman is doing a dirty, rough job like that.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't expect them to do that. Now, if they want to, they're a tomboy, whatever, great. But on average, that's not what we find.
Yeah, I mean, it's like saying how many men too are caretakers.
Right.
You know, typically you're not going to find a lot of men who are caretaking. Let's ask this question too: when a war comes, and who gets drafted? Is it going to be a man or a woman? If we want equality, should we start seeking for 50-50, 50% of women in the war and 50% of men in the war?
I guarantee you, women won't stand for that shit.
No, they wouldn't, because they don't want that shit.
They don't want that shit.
And another thing too,
which is fine.
Let's just say if, and I've heard this before as well, but let's just say too, if men were really suppressing women, why wouldn't we just send all the women to war? If men really had that much control over fucking women per se, and we're such misogynist assholes, why wouldn't we just send them out?
I say fuck that. We're not gonna go. Send them.
Exactly. But that's not the fucking case. They send them in, especially the young men, the young naive men, which is why it's important to have your own fucking mind, especially as a young person.
Right.
Which I guess
they
is
say fuck sending us and the bitches.
Yeah.
Think about it.
They would if that was
if they're a misogynistic.
If what the feminists say is true, that's what would really happen. And it's interesting too because this is really predominant in today's generation, the newer generation, Gen Z, whatever the fuck, is that a lot of women embrace being promiscuous. You know, especially in college. I think college is a huge fucking waste of time at this point. You're just going to socialize. You're paying 6 figures, you're getting in debt, tying that shit down to your ankles just to go out and be promiscuous, you know, in my opinion. But a lot of women in today's world they embrace being promiscuous, and not only do they embrace, but they cheer it on. They root for it for other women. Then I think that we haven't really seen the true effects of that yet.
We haven't.
What's going to happen is that in 10 years, you know, these women who are from 22 to 32, they're going to fucking realize, you know what, I shouldn't have been promiscuous when I was younger. And I think, too, it's why it's important. Here's the reality of it, too. It's important for women to realize when they have their value, because when they're they have their most value, so that way they can find the life they're looking for at those times. Because the truth behind this is that some people might not like this hard fucking truth, but women lose their value over time. The older a woman gets, the least valuable she becomes. Now, don't fucking hate don't hate the messenger, don't hate the messenger, hate the game,
don't
or
play
some
the
shit.
Player, hate the game.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just a messenger.
Don't kill the messenger.
Don't kill the messenger. I'm just saying the reality of the truth of it, because
what you're speaking on is in the sense that their value is their beauty. So obviously over time, you know, in their 20s, they hit the pinnacle of their value, aka beauty.
Yeah.
And then it starts to deteriorate over time.
Yeah, I would say after 24, 25, in my opinion, depending on how her genetics are. Because when she's 30 years old, she's going to have much less value in the marketplace. Because why would a guy who's 38, 40, 45, who's very well off, if he can get that 23-year-old versus the woman who's 32, maybe with a kid, maybe 2 kids. Yeah, essentially, I mean, which one are you going to go after? Right. You know, if you can pick, if both were 100% yeses, what are you going to go after? You know, I'm going to go after that 23-year-old at the end of the day, you know, or somebody who I find more beautiful, you know, despite it's not about the age thing. It's about who I find more attractive, you know, and men and women are calibrated differently. Men go after beauty, men go after looks, and women go more off of something mental, like what the man can provide in regards to resources, the way he is, his masculine energy. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I don't think women I don't think that looks, or at least I would say for a long term, I would presume that women don't go off of a man fully off of looks. No. That's why you can see some ugly ass guy with some ugly cute ass
5'2", bald as fuck, but he has dough.
Yeah, maybe he has a good personality.
She's with his fucking 5'10" model. You know?
Yeah. I mean, shit. She's probably using him for his money. Maybe not. Maybe
but
he has a really good personality.
Even if that is the case, she's using him for his resource, which is what women look after.
Yeah,
it's
not
just
his
sometimes
looks.
in a more derogatory sense where they're going purely being a gold digger, essentially.
Yeah.
But essentially, though, all women typically look after men for what their value. Obviously, sometimes looks, they're not going to necessarily be attracted to somebody who's fucking ugly, you know. But if they start seeing that initially they're fucking ugly, right? But yet they see that they have some stackertons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some bundles. All of a sudden,
actually, he actually looks not too bad.
Cute.
Yeah, he ain't that bad.
No, you know, it's about personality.
Yeah, exactly. And then when he turns broke, she's out. That's another thing too.
She gets that 50 cut.
That's why, to me, it's important, like, about like finding the right woman. Relatively, like, at least I should say, revolving myself around the right people now. Because I know that when the wealth really begins to pour in, I'm gonna be much more weary about why does this girl like me? Mm-hmm. You know, does she like me because I have a lot of money, or does she really like me for who I am? And I think there's ways to go about that too. Obviously, if I'm fucking flexing and I pull up in a Ferrari, you know, and I'm just trying to hella flex on her, yeah, I'm more than likely gonna attract a girl who likes materialistic things. But I think there's a way to go about it too, where we can, keep the squeaky suspension truck, and knowing I have the fucking 10-car garage of all the supercars. Pull up in the truck, you know, and let that shit
great
squeak.
Value t-shirt.
Great value having that shit hang, the
headliner
hanging, and say, let's go for a ride, you know? We'll go to the movies and see how she reacts. And if this bitch starts giving the skink face, all right, I know that she's probably not the one. But if she gets in and acts like, man, that shit's normal to her, man, it's a wrap for me at that point, yeah. Because I'm not looking for a girl who likes me for my materialistic things. And I think maybe a hard reality to accept is that I think personally, and I'm curious to what you think, is that I think men are only loved in a conditional sense. And I think that really the only woman who can this could be a limiting belief, could be, but I think really the only woman who can truly love you is your mom with unconditional love. And I think that expecting a woman to love you unconditionally is kind of irrational, because I think women by nature are wired to be with a man who has a lot of resources, and if you can no longer provide that for her, conditional, then she's just unattracted to you on a biological basis.
And even if she feels no. Over time, naturally, it's going to happen. Her biology is going to indicate to her, hey, this guy is not fit for us.
Yeah, and
it's time to start
I would say the only possibility would be if the girl is very conscious.
It'd take a lot.
Yeah.
It'd take an angel.
But who knows, though? Who knows that, like, for example, Alyssa, I feel like she wouldn't be like that.
But we don't know, though.
Yeah, but we don't know. I would presume.
Put it this way, Austin.
Think about the way we were raised, though.
Right, but think about it.
And we're more conscious.
Okay, let's say a hypothetical sense. Then this guy is really wealthy, right? And is supplying Alyssa, and she's always struggled with money, but now she gets to relax in her female essence, right? But then this guy ends up getting like evangelical or influence and quits his job and does some other whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Just completely leaves his passion behind.
Asking her for lunch money.
Yeah, and then now he's not supplying all those types of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that she's not going to be frustrated? And then what if that frustration builds over time because he's not changing?
I would say maybe what it is a man who isn't driven. So like,
it's because a man is meant to provide.
Yeah.
So if you stop providing, what's the point of the partnership?
Yeah.
You know, when we're in a
that's true.
That's like me and you in a business deal, right?
That's true.
And yet we're in a business deal together and you're benefiting or whatever the fuck, but you stop holding your end of the deal.
Yeah.
What's the point of us being together?
Yeah.
And when we're in a relationship, I don't care what anybody tells you, Disney Channel, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
But basically at the end of the day, we're with somebody because they provide something that we want,
that's true,
need, or like. You know what I mean? And once we don't get that, what the fuck's the point?
Yeah.
You know, that's the reason why you hang out with certain friends, because they provide something for you. Like funny, good times.
True.
But that random guy that you're awkward with, you don't hang around with them because there's not a connection. There's nothing, there's no give or take.
Yeah.
There's nothing, you know, especially as in a relationship.
Yeah.
Now you don't hold your end of the deal bringing these things that she lacks. Then there's no point of being together. At that point, you're just friends.
Yeah.
You know? And I completely agree with the woman thing. With the mother's the only one that will always love you as a man unconditionally. And that's why you can't treat your woman like your mother in the sense that you're going to always expect her to love you unconditionally.
Yeah.
Because the moment you stop
crying to her and shit.
The moment you stop providing value is the moment her attraction starts to deteriorate, whether she's conscious of it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I seen like this guy he posted on Instagram. He's my age, or I think he's either my age or 1 year younger, but his education company's making like $700K a month, and he says that I don't know if it was December 2021 he was saying this, but sometime after that recording, like within 5-6 months, that he's gonna be projected to make $3 million. Like he's building his education company to be doing $3 million a month. But he was talking about how just talking about the entrepreneurship stuff, about how you're always working, you're always having high pressure, and that it's nonstop pressure all the time. Like you wake up pressure to the time that you go to sleep pressure. And he had said that what happened was that his girlfriend always makes him food like 3 days in advance, and she would bring him the food. He's like working all day. And one time that he seen her, like she brought him food, and when he answered the door, he like just started crying into her arms. And I was thinking like, you know, they're married, and I'm sure he provides a lot of value to her and stuff like that. But does that sustain the romantic interest in the relationship? I would think no. You know, I would say that an accumulation of these initial acts, you know, would make a woman, I would presume, not sexually at least attracted to you, you know, and that's kind of, I would say that's one of the bigger reasons why a man is in a relationship is for like sexual things, right? So I would say that it's important for the man to keep these things on top of mind, because if you don't, then you're going to end up cornering yourself in the wrong corner. And I would say that once you cry into her arms, you know what, you can't go back. Like that's done. Like that's in her memory now. You know, like you can't go back from that. Like, and she's gonna know now that you can't sustain your emotions, you know, or you're not.
Now, if you're crying over your mother dying or something, those are probably like rare instances that come about. That can maybe justify you crying in a woman's arms.
Yeah.
But if you're stressed out about work or anything, no matter how much the bigger pressures are, that's just a sheer display that you can't handle pressures of life.
Yeah.
And it's going to speak to her biology. She might. I already know there's going to be women arguing about this, you know. And the funny thing is too.
I would love to bring any woman who wants to, doesn't agree with what we're talking about now, fucking message me on Instagram. Either go to my Instagram at Austin Lupercio or go to the podcast Instagram at the Road to Freedom and message us and tell us how you feel. Maybe if you're in the San Diego area for now and in the end of 2022, you can come onto the podcast and we can discuss this live. I would love to hear what you think. I would love to get your opinion on this, but yeah, anyways, what you're saying?
Yeah, so essentially, because like a couple girls that I've talked to before, a lot of times will ask me what's wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And just because typically, since I am an expressive type, it is what it is, I would tell them, you know? But since I've learned about women, you know what I mean, and how to keep their attraction, one thing that I realize is that not to confide in them. Yeah. You know, and that to use other people to confide into. Your parents, your siblings, other men. Yeah. You know what I mean? Talking about certain things. Because why? It displays that you can't handle life. Yeah. Now,
if you were to be emotionally pouring out to her.
If I'm always bitching, you know, and I think that she can be my shoulder to lean on in that aspect emotionally, she's going to start.
That's hella masculine. Like expecting, because when you're discomfortable or you're emotional, it's feminine energy because it's chaotic, right? And then you're looking for a masculine energy to keep you in tune, in alignment. So you're going after her for a thing that's against her nature. Right. So it's going to draw her out of her nature and it's going to make her unattracted unconsciously.
And the thing is, too, I've had them tell me a couple of times that, well, you're telling me you don't share anything. Tell me how you're feeling. That's why I'm here. You shut me out. And I'm like, no. Yeah. You know? Now, when it comes to maybe expressing about certain things, but if like dear things to me that I'm facing, I'm not going to express, you know? And I know it's kind of like an abstract thought that's not common because we think, no, it's a partnership. Your woman's supposed to be everything. You can tell her everything.
Yeah. According to the Disney Channel thesis. Yeah. 365. How's it go? You're watching Disney Channel. Yeah. I would say too, like, I mean, and it's important for men to understand these things because I think with me personally, I didn't understand a lot of this stuff in past relationships. And I mean, I can't really think of times where I was supplicating. I mean, I can't really think of times where I emotionally went to my woman and I was like looking at her for answers. I really can't. I mean, unless it's somewhere in my unconscious, I can't remember. I don't remember ever really doing that. So that's already not in my nature, you know. But I was gonna say this too, was that this is why it's like it's difficult for a man because a man is always told to like bottle up his emotions. Like it's not okay to show you're emotional and I think it's true to an extent. I think it's the man's job to have control of his fucking emotions. So basically don't be a bitch. You know, like if things bother you, then you need to work it out internally as well. You know, and I think it's important for you to be your best therapist. You need to discover a way for you to fully express yourself in your own
through journaling, whatever it is.
That's always been the best way for me too. One of the best ways, but I also too would talk to myself out loud. Like there's a lot of times too, especially in fucking business, where I like will start getting like self-doubt or irrational thoughts, like just being like fearful thinking, and I have nobody to really understand me. Like, and that's what drives me even more crazy because I'm like, dude, it doesn't even matter who the fuck I go to. Even if I express to them how I'm feeling, they won't understand. So then it's like I feel like nobody gets me. So like I just think, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna figure that shit on my own. But there's been a lot of times where that's bit me in the ass too, where like I know that I'm not thinking right. And if I were just to discuss this with somebody, then I would be able to see my thoughts more or realize that, dude, you're not thinking right. You know, that's not, dude, you're obviously not seeing reality the way it really is, you know? But that's why it's fucking hard to be a man too, bro. You know, like I think a lot of women don't understand that. And I think a lot of these modern women think that they want to be a fucking man or they want to be more masculine, but they don't realize what fucking comes with it, you know? And what comes with the responsibility of being a man. I mean, shit. how easy is it just to be pretty and not have any responsibilities and do whatever you want in life?
Throw on a G-string and hop up on a yacht.
And
you know?
I mean,
Shit,
yeah,
sign me up.
That's more the whole shit too, you know.
Yeah.
But regardless of being a beautiful woman, you know, like that gets with a guy who's admirable too, who's a good fucking guy, who's a businessman, has ethics. I mean, why is that to complain about? Why? And I feel like this is the fucking truth, but I feel like typically the ones who are pissed off are the ugly girls because they don't have the leverage of what a beautiful woman does.
Yeah,
that's why feminists tend to typically be fucking ugly. Yeah, you know, green hair,
big
fucking
body,
fat. You know, that's the
Big
truth.
Mac body.
That's the truth. Yeah,
Michelin
Big Mac,
woman.
Yeah, Michelin. Give me that 20-piece chicken nuggets.
Give me that tire stack.
Any high fructose. Yeah, that tire stack. Michelin. What you're saying. It makes sense because they don't understand what it's like to have true beauty. So I mean, I think they're resentful towards beautiful women. Of course. You know, and that's why you tend to find that, like, I mean, actually I can't say that anymore, but I think a big majority of feminists, especially the ones who are out in the streets, you know, fucking no bra movement, are typically either women who can't think for themselves, and this goes along for any movement. Typically, people who don't think for themselves, right. Or number two, they're really fucking ugly, and they're either upset that they don't have the beauty, so they're envious of that, or they just don't realize what it's like to have that beauty, I guess we can say it, you know? So, I mean, it's crazy about how modern women think that they want to be men, but they don't really fucking realize that they don't. And not only do they want to be a man, but they want to be promiscuous too, right? You know? So it makes me feel like, dude, like our fucking pickings are slim, you know? And that could be true. That could be not true as well. And the thing is, too, is that I also, like, when it comes down to women, I would much rather prefer a religious woman, you know, but I also don't want a woman who's just stuck in religion either.
A nun?
A nun, you know, where she can't think outside the box. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like this, like, niche group of women.
I think you just say religious because typically religious people have moral aspects and a foundation of ethics.
Yeah, traditional. Know? That's what I'm after, traditional women. So, I mean, we know that traditional women are, I mean, once again, could be a limiting belief, but traditional women are far and few in between to find nowadays. Yeah. Wouldn't you agree to that?
I would 110% agree.
Yeah. And I would say American women specifically.
That's
American
why,
women have been brainwashed.
When I talk about, especially to any type of girl that I know or anybody, you know, whether it's romantically or not, when I speak upon man shit, they're like, oh, because you're a man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Man spreader?
Yeah, because they're like, oh, this guy. You know, he's a fucking typical douche or whatever. Yeah. Just the fact that nobody appreciates the traditional values. You know what I mean? The traditional
They're fucking blind, bro. Yeah. At the end of the day, they don't see the goal that's fucking staring at them in the goddamn fucking eyes. And I think as women get older,
totally perfectly said.
As women get older too, and they start losing their fucking beauty, they start getting into these traditional roles, and they fucking realize, fuck, I'm already 32, 2 kids with 2 different baby daddies, and I'm fucked. You know, because now I realize that all that shit was fucking true, and I'm just looking for a traditional relationship.
Well, I was being a little WAP.
But your past isn't traditional, bitch. I mean, I want a little
real talk.
A little real though. That's on some real shit, you know. And women don't
sow what you reap.
And
reap what you sow.
And same thing too. These bitches who think too, like, to fucking post on OnlyFans. What do you think of the odds of your fucking kids is seeing that shit? And when your kids do see that, you being, girl, get that bag, girl. Get that. Show them titties. Show them titties, girl. Yeah, show them titties and let your fucking kids see that shit when they're older.
You want dinner tonight? All right.
And guess what? Guess what they're doing too in that moment? They're prioritizing money over anything else. They're prioritizing money over anything else.
Throwing away morals.
And if you want to get that bag, and if you want to throw away and make your body public like that, and be fully promiscuous in a bunch of people's eyes, fuck it, go for it. But I guarantee you, in 10 years, when little Jimmy, when little Jimmy comes back and he starts getting older, man, he gets 8 to 10 years old, and one of his buddies pulls up a video of you showing your tits online, you know what? You're probably gonna fucking regret those decisions, and I guarantee you're gonna say that wasn't worth the money. And guess what? Not only do your kids see it, but your grandkids get to see it, and great grandkids,
and all the great grandkids' friends.
Exactly, everybody can get access to it as long as it's online, you know. And I think it's so interesting, dude. And I think too, I kind of tend to find too that I think that since women are more, I feel like women aren't more in the streets as men are. Men are like the ones who are fucking hustling, you know, and typically over on average, that I tend to find that more women are naive. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like, where it's like, I'm kind of like, do you not do you not see this guy is obviously trying to like manipulate you, or like this is obviously taking place. Like,
yes.
This is obvious to me.
It just comes back to their emotional like inner nature too, you know.
And when I say naivety, I think it's also coming from a lack of inexperience.
Yeah,
too.
That's exactly what naive essentially.
Yeah.
What I'm assuming you're implying by saying naive. Really, it's just a lack of experience and a lack of awareness.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm saying this too, like having and I'm just saying maybe because these are what is fed, and I think this is how it is, especially with men and women of today, the newer generation, but they seem to have a big lack of capability of critical thinking and thinking long term. So like, I think these women are thinking, yeah, I need to get the bag now, but they don't think, okay, 5 to 10 years, what are going to be the repercussions of my actions today?
Right.
Because there are going to be repercussions whether you want to realize it or not, you know? And to me, like, for example, let me ask you this. If you end up finding a girl and you're in the middle of you're 2 months into dating her and you end up finding out that she's had an OnlyFans account for a year, would you keep her around or would you dump her?
I'd probably leave her at the bus stop.
I mean, if we're talking about as a girlfriend,
yeah,
like a committed relationship, yeah, she's getting dumped, you know. But if we're just looking to have fun, sure,
of course,
keep her around, you
know.
But
we're coming to dump her in the end.
Exactly, she's not going to be somebody who we're going to stick around with. And I think too that these girls are in this fucking individual, you know, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want, but in 5 to 10 years when their value drops, they're gonna fucking really regret that decision, you know.
Yep.
And it's to me, it's important to discuss these things too, so that for the women who are listening, they can kind of get the reality of how fucking shit
is. Who the
is.
fuck talks about this? Rarely. People talk about this shit rarely.
And they typically seen, and this is why our fucking theme is speaking the truth,
right?
Because we're talking our truth specifically, and I would say the nature of reality, how fucking biology is, and all these things. And that a lot of people are brainwashed in feminism, the feminist movement of today, especially college feminists, women, you know, the newer generation.
The elitist feminists, like the top echelons of feminism.
Yeah, the educated in brainwashing. They had a degree in brainwashing. They paid 6 figures to get a brainwashing degree, you know? And, I mean, it's pretty unfortunate. I wish that college was more set up today to actually cultivate educated people, you know, in a non-pseudo-science, pseudo-intellectual way, you know? Because it seems as though is that once people feel like they have the degree, you know, that they somehow know everything in the world, you know? And I could be wrong, but it just seems like it's a common thing amongst it all. And, like, especially when it comes down to, like, the feminist bullshit. And I think it's almost important for somebody to come out and speak the full-blown opposite of today's theme, you know, to, like, begin to bring out these conversations of, like, that. And I think there's people too who are like the fucking red pill community and shit like that. I feel like a lot of it has a lot of truth. I mean, and we touched on topics like that today, but at the same time, though, I feel like a lot of those guys go too far.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? Like, you never get a bitch, fuck a bitch, have 10 bitches.
It's that men going your own way shit again.
Yeah, and I don't agree with that.
Fuck no.
You know, and I think too that I think the important thing...
That's like man feminist or maleist.
Exactly, yeah, maleist. Which shit, I would probably say that's me as a fucking meme, you know, just to be like, just to go against the grain. But nonetheless, I mean, I think discussing these things too help men kind of... I think what it does is that by bringing up these discussions, it helps men get newer thoughts, and women too, to help them be more into who they are, and not be pressurized into thinking in the way of brainwashing of common society
shit,
you know. And I'm sure that there's a lot of men and women who've thought this way, and they feel as though that they're being pressured into thinking this other way, and that they feel maybe guilty for thinking this way of reality, of fucking truth, you know. So I mean, it brings me great joy to be able to speak about this shit, you know. And who fucking knows, maybe we're gonna end up being on the news or some shit, fucking as misogynist or some shit. Fuck it. I'll wear that shit with the badge of honor. But yeah, I think that was a pretty good podcast today.
Yeah, most definitely.
Is there anything that you wanted to say?
That's it. That's the end for me. Giving life to the Kim pendulum.
Yeah. Don't. Oh, that's where it all stemmed from, huh? Damn, that's crazy. Yeah. Don't follow the WAP movement. Follow the freedom of thought movement.
But you can follow us on Instagram.
Exactly. Perfect transition.
Flip it, Tyler.
So be sure, everybody, once again, if you guys getting value from this podcast, be sure to share it with somebody who will also attain the equivalent value. We talk about great fucking topics, as you can see. Every topic that's revolved around free thinking, we have no bounds, and we never will. So be sure to also follow us on Instagram. We'll release pre-release content on there. We release really interesting clips. We're just watching a video of a clip that we released today, and we're fucking cracking up on the way here. So definitely really good content. Be sure to follow it at The Road to Freedom. It's at the road, the number 2, Freedom Podcast on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook Reels. You can also find us on TikTok as well as YouTube Shorts.
OnlyFans. Just kidding.
OnlyFans, exactly. We feet pic. Just kidding. We just post pics of like quotes.
And if feet pic, I won't mind in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways,
and you don't even know it's you. You know? But anyways, yeah, follow us on our OnlyFans where we post real shit, like actual freedom topics. Just kidding. Anyways,
real feet.
You say no feet?
No, real feet.
Feet with the Constitution on it.
Yeah.
Like the the nails.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess going too far. Yeah. But nonetheless, as we wrap it up here, be sure to follow us on YouTube. So subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, go on fucking YouTube and subscribe because it's so much more interesting watching us on the actual video. Yeah. Tell us in the comments what you think. If there's something that you agreed with or disagreed with, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Tell me what you think about. If you're a woman in San Diego and you don't fucking agree with what we talked about today, hit us up. I'm curious of what you think. Maybe this depends on how much value you can possibly bring. If it makes sense for us, maybe you'll get put on the podcast, maybe not. But nonetheless, tell us what you guys think in the comments. I'm curious what you guys think. And nonetheless, we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Yeah.
See you guys then.
Yeah, I've been saying I was rich since I was broke. Yeah, it's a state of mind you gotta know. Yeah, that it's gonna happen for sure. Had to take my time, take it slow. Yeah.
DJ Austin.
No.